Sorry, I got a little bit cold. So a more complicated research design that has two independent variables is one like we were talking about earlier. So this visual search task has two independent variables. Set size, whether we're looking through 6 objects or through 12 objects to find the target, and also the type of search that we're performing, whether we're looking for a target that's based on a unique conjunction of features, or whether we're looking for a target just based on some single feature. So there are a number of different ways that we can actually run this experiment, and the different ways of running this experiment is going to have different implications for how we analyze the data. Now in class I've talked about how we can break up variance into different pieces as long as our manipulations are independent of one another. It's really important that we have independent manipulations so that way we can break up things. So if we break up our variance, as I've said in class a number of times, our total variance can be broken up into variance that's related to effects and interactions, and also variance that's related to error. Now, depending on the type of design that we have, we may or may not be able to break that error up into additional pieces. So, in the example that I was talking about originally, sorry, that would have been over here, where you had me versus some other person, or one group of people versus another group of people, you really can't be sure if the individuals that are fast in the between subjects condition are just fast in general, or if they're fast in that particular condition. So since you can't really tell between those two things get lumped up into a single error term. However, if you use a within subjects design, then you're able to tease apart those differences and break that error up into variance related to subjects and also variance that's related to the interactions with the subjects. I demonstrated the interaction with the subject when I showed you how I was above the mean in one situation, but more above the mean in another. And even after you accounted for me just being above the mean overall, which would be variance related to me, we saw that how I responded in those different conditions varied. I was a little beneath the mean in the set size 6 condition and above the mean in the size 12 condition. So let's take a look at this design in a number of different ways. First, let's imagine a fully between subjects design. So that is, we have a different group of participants for every condition. So we have one group of participants searching through set size 6, looking for features. We have another group of participants looking through set size 12, looking for feature targets. We have another group of people looking through set size 6 for conjunction targets. And finally a group, a completely different group of individuals looking through set size 12 for conjunction targets. So different people in every single condition. Now, we're interested in asking questions like, are there main effects of size? Are there main effects of the type of search? Is there an interaction between size and search? And so those questions relate to different variance components. So the question about, is there an effect of set size? Well, we're talking about the variance of the size, right? So how does size vary? We have it low in one situation and high in another. That's variance. We're also talking about variance that's related to the type of search that people are conducting. And finally, we have variance that's related to the size by search interaction. Now, if this is a completely between subjects design, imagine that we have one individual who scores here. So they're beneath the mean. So imagine that they're in set size 6 for a feature search. So they're performing much faster than the average for this condition. But if each of these points represents a completely different group of subjects, you don't know if they're just a fast person in general, or if they're just fast for feature searches, or if they're just fast for set size 6, or if they're just fast for feature searches of set size 6, right? There are all those possibilities, and we can't tease those apart. So because we can't tease those apart, all of the variance around these points that's related to the different subjects, that's just going to be a single error term because we can't break it up anymore. Now, if you remember, when I talked about performing an analysis of variance, we compute an F statistic, and this is basically the mean squares for our effect or interaction that we're interested in, all over the mean squared for the appropriate error term. Now, if you look at this, we have two effects, an interaction, and only a single error term. This means that this error term is going to be used in the denominator for all of these f-tests. So when we don't have the ability to break that up, we're going to use the same denominator for all of them. And here's another important thing to recognize. If we can't break this piece up into smaller pieces, then this is going to be larger than it could if we were able to break that up into different ways. Now, contrast the between subjects design with the fully within subjects design. Now, we're still interested in the same basic questions. Is there an effect of size? Is there an effect of the type of search? Is there an interaction between the set size and the type of search that we're doing? However, now we don't have different groups of people. We have the same group of people performing in every single condition. This is awesome. Why? Because I can compare this person in all of their conditions. And I can see that overall this person is faster. So I get an idea that this subject on average is just faster than other people. I can also look and see for the feature conditions, how much on average is he faster for the feature conditions compared to the conjunction conditions. That will give me an interaction between subject. I mean, that I'm talking about one in particular, but if you think about all the subjects, I can figure out the interaction between subjects and search. Similarly, I can see how this subject performs on all of the set size 6, how much on average they're below those means versus below the means for set size 12. You can sort of see that he's more, or she is more beneath the mean for set size 6s than for set size 12. So we have an interaction between subjects and search. Or subjects and size. And we also could potentially have an interaction between size, search, and the subjects. So we can break up the variance into a huge number of pieces. And these pieces, they have to be smaller, at least, I guess they don't have to be smaller than that. It's possible that one of them could be exactly the same size if there's no variance between the conditions or anything. But on average, these are all going to be smaller than the situation where we couldn't break that variance up any further. And this is going to be great. So now the big question is, which of these error variance terms do we use? Well, it's pretty easy. The subjects, we're not really interested in learning about effects of subjects. We don't do experiments typically to learn about, how I perform, or how Susan performs, or how Malia performs, or how Tarek performs. That's not the question that we're interested in. So when we have this, we can just take it out and ignore it. It's beautiful. Then we have these other components that we have to work with. Now, if you think about it, if we're looking at the effective size, what we're interested in is variance that the subjects, or how the subjects vary around each different size. So we're going to use the subjects by size interaction as the error term for the size effect. We use the subject by search interaction for the to look at the effect of search, and to look at the effect of the interaction between size and search, we'll use the three-way interaction between subjects, size, and search. Now here's where things get a bit tricky. So I've talked about doing this completely between subjects, right? One group here, a different group there, another group here, and finally a completely different group up here. Or a completely within subjects design, where you have the same group doing all the conditions. We don't have to have it like that. We could do it where we have a mixed design. So imagine that I have one group of people perform conjunction searches at set sizes 6 and 12. So this means that size is varying within subjects, right? I have another group of participants that are doing feature searches at both set size 6 and 12. So again, size is varying within subjects. However, this group is different from that one. So search, the type of search that people are completing is different for the different, the type of searches that people are completing divides them into different groups. So this means that the type of search actually varies between subjects. So in this situation, we have one variable, size, that varies within, and another variable, search, that varies between. So what do we have? This is called a mixed design. Now, if we think about the between and the within designs, this will help us understand how we're analyzing the mixed designs. When we have a between subjects variable, we only have one error term here, and we apply that one error term to all of our between subjects variables. Here, in the within subjects condition, because we have repeated observations of individuals for those variables that have varied within subjects, we can break those things up into other pieces. Now, so here we can't break things up because the subjects aren't varying across the condition, here we can't break this up because we can't tell the difference between, the subject that's just generally fast or the subject that's just generally fast in this condition. Here we can. In a mixed design, again, we have exactly the same questions that we initially had. So, is there an effective size? Is there an effective search? Is there a search by size interaction? But now, our variance only gets broken up into pieces that are related to the within subject's independent variable. Thank you. So, again, we have an effective subject, right? Because we have multiple observations of an individual subject, we can tell who is sort of faster and who is slower. And because those subjects have repeated measurements within a certain variable, here, size, right? Size is the variable that's varying within subjects. So I can see if people that are generally fast in the feature condition are more fast in set size 6 or more fast in set size 12. So I have that interaction about subject and size. However, I don't have any data for individual subjects across the variable that's varying between subjects. So that means I can't break this up any further. So these pieces here, they all get lumped together because I can't break this up any further because we don't have observations of those subjects across the between subjects factor, which means that we can't look at subject and search the between subject factor, or subject size and search because it includes the between subject factor. So in this situation, how do we use these error pieces to run our ANOVAs? Over here, when we have the variables that are varying between subjects, we just use the subject variance. So here, which of the variables varies between subject? Well, that's this one right here, right? That varies between subjects, so we're going to use that as our error term. However, size varies within subjects, so we have this interaction that we can look at to use as the error term for that. For our size by search interaction, even though search isn't varying within subjects, size is. So we can use this piece also as the denominator for that. So if we were to summarize, in all of the designs, we are interested in the same basic questions. Is there an effective size? Is there an effective search? Is there an interaction between the two variables? And the numerators for all of these are all identical. Mean square size, mean square search. Sorry, this should be search, not size. Search. Mean square size by search. It's only the denominator that's changing. So in the between subjects, we only have a single error term. So this stays the same. It's just a mean square for the subject for all of those. For the fully within, each effect and interaction has its own error term. So size, we're looking at the error term that's related to subject and size. For search, we're looking at the error term for subject and search. For the size by search interaction, we're looking at the error term for the subject by size by search interaction. For the mixed designs, we are going to use some of the error terms for multiple tests. So size varied within subjects. So we can use the subject by size interaction for that error term. We have the size by search interaction, which includes the size variable that varies within participants. So again, we can use that subject by size interaction. However, for the search, it doesn't vary within subjects, so we can't use that subject by search interaction because we can't tease that piece apart from the rest of the variance that's related to subjects. So we just use that other component for the denominator there.